As part of our work guide to marketing in the COVID-19 recession, we've been talking to industry experts about what they think the path forward will be. One of those experts is Gerard Tellis, professor of marketing at the University of Southern California's Marshall School of Business. He spoke with us about how this recession is different from others. Let's take a look. I guess the big question and the first question I would have for you, Gerard, is just the one that's on everybody's minds. How is this recession different from previous recessions?
So previous recessions were caused by some shock to some part of the economy. So the last one in 2008 and 2009 was caused by a shock to the real estate market and the banking market, which made loans to real estate. And so on. For example, the 2000 recession was caused by overinvestment in internet stocks. However, the current recession is massive because it affects almost all industries, though some positively and some negatively. So this is a huge shock to the whole economy and of all economies all over the world. So it's unlike any other, perhaps, since the Great Depression.
Yeah, well, it's interesting as you apply that to different categories. And I know you do in the piece that you wrote for us, something like travel in a previous recession would suffer some declines, but it would not suffer an absolute wipeout. So I guess that's one example of how this is really different.
Correct. So the ones that are suffering massively. So nobody would want to go on a cruise ship in the current time period. But probably even down the road, people are going to be very reluctant to go on a cruise ship in spite of all the incentives.
Yeah.
Similarly, staying in hotels or traveling by air or traveling by train, all of these are going to be affected drastically, unlike prior recessions, which would be only a small decline or a small hit.
Right. And also with a sort of coming out of it, as you noted, that's quite gradual in that it's not that the economy snaps back and all of a sudden that means that you want to go on a great trip around the world, that is just not going to be happening for quite some time.
Right. And as a matter of fact, there was a snapback in the stock market, at least in the US, which have gained, I don't know, about 15 to 20%. But that is, in a way, sort of artificial because that's due to the money the government has pumped into the economy, not because the economy has picked up on its own.
So by contrast, what are the similarities that this recession has to some of the other recessions we've seen in the past?
Well, the similarity is that there is a shock and therefore things are slowing down. And there are winners and losers. Short-term winners would be categories like companies that make personal protective equipment, masks, and so on, or disinfectants, or alcohol, because some people are using alcohol to make their own disinfectant at home. And once the lockdown is lifted or once the virus has been controlled, these companies are likely to get back to normal. On the other hand, long-term winners are those like those that support the digital economy or digital communications, such as Zoom and Amazon Cloud and so on. And these are already were winning, but now they are winning dramatically. And the move from physical to online is going to be accelerated. And so those will win in the long term.
Of course, the traditional thinking has been that what you should do is really spend more during a recession so that when you come out of it, you've sort of given yourself a wonderful, kind of glide path to future growth. That doesn't really seem to apply here in quite the same way. So my question is, what would you do if you were a brand, say, like the cruise industry that just has a very, very long-term way out of it. Is there any role for advertising in their world right now?
Yeah, let me back up a bit and talk about generally advertising in a recession. So what we found out from the past is there is a double whammy, if you like, about advertising in a recession. During a recession, the cost of media goes down, and other firms, competitors, are not advertising. So if a target firm advertises, it gets twice the benefit. It's buying at a lower price, and its advertising is heard more effectively than if it advertised after the recession when the economy has picked up. In the case of the current COVID-related recession, however, one has to see whether the firm is a winner or loser, and if it's a short-term winner or a long-term winner, and a short-term loser or a long-term loser. Because it's not merely advertising, but advertising in the context of the product portfolio that you now have.
One thing that kind of also occurs to me pretty much whenever a recession happens is that even though we know there's tons of evidence, you've surfaced that over the course of quite a lot of your career, I imagine, that you should advertise more during a recession in general, depending on category, certainly in this case. Advertisers seem to seldom follow that advice. So why is that?
Yeah, they are in the midst of a crisis, and they're just struggling to manage. So the few that do read up and do look to strategize over the short or long term will benefit from it. There's also this problem of marketing versus finance, and the marketing managers and the marketing advertisers may believe what we have said and what our findings show, but it's not necessary that the finance people will do so, and therefore the marketing managers may not get approval for their budgets.
So if you were one of those marketing managers in a category that, say, you've identified as one that should keep advertising right now, I mean, what would your sort of pitch be to the CFO?
So it all depends whether it's a loser or winner, and is it short term or a long term. So, for example, if you're a winner, you're producing masks. The masks are going to sell. Perhaps all you need to advertise is to point out where people could get them, what would be the right price, and what would be the attributes of the particular mask that they want. But over the long term, with that perspective in mind, what the company would want to do is build up a brand name so that once the current boost to sales is over, they can use that brand name to market other related products. On the other hand, for a loser, the company needs to reevaluate its portfolio and probably change what they are offering. So, for example, an auto manufacturer might be producing equipment, medical equipment, and they may want to advertise to inform companies, to inform the public about and generate goodwill about what this company is doing, or to long-term enhance the value of their brand name. Mm-hmm. So it all depends on whether you're a winner or loser and whether it's short-term or long-term. So typically losers have to redesign their portfolio and then advertise strategically.
Thanks again to Gerard for sharing his thoughts with us. If you'd like to know more about how to market in the COVID-19 recession, check out WARC.com. Thank you.